Governments limit NGOs for a mix of political, security, economic, and administrative reasons. Here's a concise breakdown of why they do this, the common methods they use, consequences, warning signs, and mitigation strategies NGOs can adopt. Why governments limit NGOs. Political control. To reduce dissent, weaken political opposition, or prevent civic mobilization that could challenge rulers or policies. Security rationale. Governments cite national security, counterterrorism, or public order to restrict organizations seen as risk. Sovereignty and influence. To limit foreign influence or control narratives that shape public opinion and policymaking. Economic and resource control. To protect state monopolies over services, resources, or revenue streams, or to limit competition for funding and human capital. Social ideological conformity. To suppress organizations promoting values, e.g., human rights, minority rights, LGBTQ+ rights, seen as conflicting with dominant social norms. Administrative capacity justification. To ensure regulatory compliance, transparency, and prevent fraud or misuse of funds, sometimes used legitimately, sometimes as pretext. How governments limit NGOs. Common tactics. Legal and regulatory barriers. Restrictive registration rules, frequent re-registration or denial of legal status. Narrow legal definitions that exclude certain activities from NGO status. Heavy reporting, auditing, and compliance requirements with steep penalties. Bans on certain types of foreign funding or onerous approval processes for grants. Financial constraints. Blocking or freezing bank accounts, taxing grants, donations, or prohibiting foreign funding. Imposing burdensome reporting that increases operational costs. Administrative harassment. Arbitrary inspections, withholding permits, or using bureaucratic delays to obstruct operations. Criminalization and prosecutions. Using criminal law, anti-terrorism laws, or vague public order statutes to arrest staff or shut down organizations. Restrictions on activities and speech. Bans on advocacy, lobbying, public gatherings, protests, or specific programmatic areas. Control of public messaging through media restrictions or censorship. Co-optation and patronage. Creating state-controlled NGOs or funding compliant groups to crowd out independent ones. Offering conditional funding that alters an NGO's agenda. Surveillance and intimidation. Monitoring communications, physical surveillance, threats or smear campaigns against staff. Legal liquidation and asset seizure. Revoking registration, seizing assets, or forcibly dissolving organizations. Consequences for civil society and communities. Reduced ability to hold governments accountable and reduced civic oversight. Service delivery gaps when independent actors are constrained. Chilling effect on free expression and civic participation. Brain drain as staff emigrate or leave the sector. Increased corruption when transparency actors are silenced. Proliferation of compliant or state-aligned NGOs that simulate pluralism. Signs an NGO is being constrained. Sudden or repeated audits, freezes of accounts, or refusal to register. New laws targeting foreign funding. Foreign agent labels, or vague security statutes. Staff arrests, travel bans, or threats against leadership. Media campaigns discrediting the NGO or its leaders. Large delays or denials in permits for events, research, or programs.
I know why the churches get free taxes on their land and buildings and all the other stuff that they involved in, because they are taking the place of people having organizations that can really get people to think for themselves and do for themselves instead of relying on the government or relying on God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, all of that. And they don't want us to think for ourselves and rely on ourselves, because that will end the big ripoff that we have had to endure for years. That's why we don't have nowhere that we can go and talk among ourselves and get the right information.